Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast hosted by two amateur clowns, because this week we watched Immortal Sins.
Written by Jane Espensen.
Directed by Gwyneth Horder-Payton.
And aired on August 19th, 2011.
What else has Gwyneth Horder-Payton done? This is another director whose name has basically never appeared on the show before because she's an American television director. Thank you, Wikipedia. She's known for The Walking Dead. Great. Okay, well, that says everything, doesn't it?
No. It only actually says one thing.
That she worked on The Walking Dead?
Yeah, I guess.
Wow, I didn't realize this actually. This actually is mind-blowing. It's like 10 times more mind-blowing than my Amazon X-Ray Fun Fact of the Week. I'm looking at Gwyneth Horder-Payton's Torchwood page, IMDb page. Mm-hmm. And she directed The Walking Dead at the same time of this, which reminds me that Walking Dead was running concurrently with Torchwood.
Yeah, The Walking Dead's been on for, here, I'll look it up.
10 years!
Yeah, 10 years. I think more, though. Did it start in 2011?
2010.
Yeah.
Started in 2010.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's 149 episodes of this. Not this.
Try 152, according to IMDb.
Wikipedia has 149.
Weak.
Yeah.
Actually, the episode guide on IMDb has 177, because I guess it... Well, I don't actually know. I guess it lists everything in season 11, which hasn't aired yet. Yeah, it does. Okay, so that explains that then.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be ending in 2022. So next year.
Thank God.
Why is its existence really that, does its existence really affect you that much?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw a tweet that was like, you can tell a lot by a person about a person based on when they stopped watching The Walking Dead. You know, did you drop out season 2, 3 when they started to kill off the interesting characters? Did you drop out season 6 when the plot just got really boring? Did you drop out season 10 when they killed off the lead character of the show? You know, it's just, you can tell a lot about a person depending on where they dropped out of Torchwood. Just,
when they dropped out of Torchwood?
Torchwood, The Walking Dead. I mean, Torchwood too, but The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is just a show that, like, you know, like Torchwood gets canceled, but The Walking Dead just lumbers on, reusing the same plot every single season. And just like, we have 11 years of The Walking Dead, but we got 4 seasons of Torchwood. You know, these are the injustices in the television world.
Oh, so you're saying, okay, that Torchwood was like more interesting and more varied, so it deserved longer. Well, it's like maybe...
It was just better. I mean, what you said is true, but let me break it down even further. Torchwood is just better.
I guess, I mean, I've only watched one episode of The Walking Dead, and it was something from the middle, like season 5 or some random episode that just, I didn't understand what was going on. I had no clue who anyone was, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to watch this.
Yeah, see? Even you watched one episode and you knew that it wasn't going to be the quality you wanted from a television program.
Well, it's also probably because I jumped in randomly in the middle and didn't know it was happening, but actually, it wasn't as confusing as I thought it would be. It's a pretty simple premise, I think, right? It's just a post-apocalyptic zombie horror, so I kind of did get what was going on almost.
The first season is by far the most interesting because it's got an interesting take on the zombies. Rick wakes up. He's been in a coma since before the apocalypse happened. He wakes up. We're like 5 months deep into the apocalypse. He's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, that...
His wife is like sleeping with his best friend now because they thought he was dead because like he was in a coma in a hospital that get overrun by zombies. Like, who wouldn't think he was dead? You know, like, fair play.
Yeah. All right, moved on a little quick, but okay. Yeah, that does sound pretty interesting. I mean, apparently the Walking Dead like adventure game thing from Telltale Games is like really good. That's what I've heard. Better than the show.
I've heard that too. But you know, the other thing about that is that you can only play so many Telltale video games before you start to realize they just took the same thing and just reskinned it every single time. Okay? The Back to the Future one is great, but do I want to play any more Telltale video games after playing 5 of those episodic installments? No, because I know what I'm going to get.
Maybe that's why they like went bankrupt. I think they went bankrupt, I don't know, or went out of business.
Yeah, they did.
Maybe both.
I mean, there is, like, what I heard in the industry when I followed the video game industry, which was, like, around the time Telltale went bankrupt, is that they just never updated the game engine. So it was, like, 10 years old by the time that they were releasing their last games, and was, like, apparently, according to developers who worked on it, impossible to use. They had to, like, break it to work with, like, any concept they wanted to do now because it was built for games that, like, didn't do what they were doing now. So, like...
Yeah.
That like stymied the development time, which meant that the games were worse, which meant that they were less well received. So it was like a snowball effect.
Could only hold out so long. Yeah, I guess that's why the U.S. military, or I think it's actually just the Army, is still on Windows XP. They can't afford to update their stuff because, like, I don't know, there's just too many different factors.
Okay. Immortal Sins. Okay. The episode begins. The episode actually opens with a flashback, if I remember correctly. Doesn't even open with the scene we saw at the end of last week with Gwen finding out that her mother, husband, and child have been kidnapped.
Yeah. So it opens on basically a recap of the season. They just picked all the scenes that indicated that Jack was this man of mystery and slammed them all at the beginning of this episode. So that's what we get. It's this sort of montage of like, yes, he's this international and intertemporal man of mystery. And also, he was there on Ellis Island 1927, or a fictionalized version of where the people letting the immigrants into the country aren't xenophobic as hell.
Yeah, none of these border security agents are making any snide comments about Angela's Italian nationality, I guess.
No, or just flat out renaming him, because that's, you know, that happened, you know, when people tried to enter the U.S. back in this time period and before. You just get renamed like something that sounds American or English or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why the mafia, the Italian and Irish mafia specifically, got so big in New York is because, you know, can you blame people for arriving at Ellis Island, getting renamed, getting like racially profiled by the people who work for the country you're moving into, and then like finding a community of people from your home country and who like treat you like an actual human being?
Yeah. I mean, it happened to my family. I mean, I won't say my last name, although it's very easy to find if you actually cared. But yeah, he used to have a Mick, and now it doesn't. Yeah.
So I mean, just, you know, really sanitizing history in this episode, but that's okay since this is okay-ish because the main focus of the episode is not the immigration struggles of Ellis Island.
No, there's way more that this episode is about to throw at us. Way more.
So we meet a guy pretending to be Jack Harkness because he wants to get into America, and the real Jack Harkness, and by the real, I mean, let's not forget that our Jack Harkness also stole his identity from someone.
Yeah, so this is interesting. It's like this chain, right? Jack stole his identity from his former lover, and then this guy who is about to become his lover tries to steal it too. But he doesn't let the same thing happen. He takes it right back.
I guess because Jack's former lover's dead and Jack's not dying anytime soon, for Angela to take the name.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
never really realized that, like, Jack taking that name from his former lover makes it almost Doctor-esque, because the Doctor continues to use the name the Doctor in each incarnation. So in a way, that, like, Jack taking his name from that soldier who died makes him sort of the second incarnation, so to speak, of Jack
Harkness. Second Jack.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an interesting parallel to draw with the Doctor that I didn't even realize when we were watching that episode.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, this episode, obviously, the parallels between Jack and the Doctor have been pretty explicit in the past, but this one is just like, I have this friend called the Doctor, and he travels with companions. Maybe I could too. Like, just straight up saying it.
And Jack even coming to the same realization the Doctor does many times over, like, you're gonna die. I'm not. We'll get there, though.
Yeah, because right now, Angelo, the guy pretending to be Jack Harkness, just gets tackled by the Jack that we know and, maybe love, I guess. Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Let's go with that. He gets put in a...
It's a love-hate relationship.
Angelo gets put in, like, a little holding cell, and, Jack is... You can tell. Jack is like... He's like, yeah, this guy is pretty into this guy. So he goes, and he starts making some small talk. And he starts revealing that he has this technology that is from the future, and he reveals that he's from the future even. But Angelo's a pretty bright guy. He's a pretty accepting guy, so he's onto it right away.
Right.
And all of a sudden...
Mainly because Jack also, like, gives him an actual visa into the country.
Right.
By changing his visa to have Angelo's name on, because... I guess since he's already, like, on the other side of the immigration line, he's good to go.
Guess that's how...
So they don't need to check his visa ever again.
Guess that's how it works.
Seems legit to me. That's how it worked for me, moved here from South Africa and they never checked my visa again. Never renewed it, never did anything. For legal purposes, this is a joke.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
100% a joke. Law-abiding citizen.
Dylan sweating profusely. That Jordan...
I'm literally a citizen now.
I know. So. That Jordan Peele gif.
So Angelo and Jack get a place together because they're both broke.
Right. And,
Jack reveals that he works for the sort of the British government, but not really the British government.
Yeah, he tells, in heavy quotes, Angelo what's going on. Which is that he basically doesn't really reveal much.
Right. He just says he comes from a faraway place called Torchwood, and that's all he says.
Mm-hmm. They start, flirting pretty heavily. I don't know, I found this scene a little uncomfortable.
I was fine with it. I've watched such an overwhelming volume of movies where people flirt, since quarantine started, that at this point I'm completely jaded to the whole situation.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just, there's something about it. Miracle Day graces us with yet another sex scene, which I found the flirting more uncomfortable than that, which is, I guess, just a clear picture of how kind of, weird I thought it was. He thinks that Jack would just want him to leave immediately because, this is 1927. He obviously can't tell anyone that he's gay. So, yeah, I guess in his experience, it would just be like, this encounter just happens and then they just part ways and talk to each other again.
They have a discussion about this a little bit. Angelo asks, like, well, can everybody tell that I'm gay? And Jack says, no, I'm just experienced in these matters. No one knows, you're fine. And then Jack basically says something like he doesn't care what people think about him, which is, it makes sense, I guess, because Jack can't die.
Yeah, if you can't die, there's basically no consequences. I mean, if you have the healing that he has, right? I mean, Miracle Day has obviously shown that that's not the case.
Right.
But Angelo goes a bit into his past as well. He was from a small village in Italy, and, you know, he really grasped onto the American dream, I guess, of seeing New York. And just, he basically came here with no plan. He's just like, you know, I just wanted to live fast and see the skyscrapers and stuff.
Live fast, die young. I don't know. Jack says something like, well, wait till you see what they're going to build later. Also, by the way, save your money. He doesn't say the stock market crash is coming soon, but the stock market crash is coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon to a country near you.
So, Angelo's interested in this mysterious man from another universe. Lest we forget that Jack is actually from the 51st century. Yeah, bet you don't remember that random tidbit that was dropped during his tenure on the TV show.
Well, I mean, season 2 did give us like a pretty, not extensive, but at least clear look at what his home looked like and stuff, so.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
But meanwhile, in 2011, Gwen decides to act really suspicious and lie blatantly to get Jack to do what he wants.
She's like, Jack, can we talk outside? And Jack's like, why? And she's like, just trust me. I just want to talk outside.
It's just the thing, you know? The thing.
You know? She's got a problem. We got to talk about it.
Jack surprisingly buys into this. Even Rex and Esther don't buy into it.
Esther has a snarky comment like, bad day, Gwen.
As soon as Jack gets out to the car, Gwen just tases him.
I was like, geez, Gwen, wow.
When he wakes up, he's bound, not gagged, but just bound. And Gwen reminds him, or not reminds him, but tells him that since her family is on the line, she would do anything and would gladly watch him die like a dog to save them.
Yeah, I mean, Jack has a comeback response where he's like, I'm mortal, and if you think that I'm going to let you, like, take my life away from me, like, end my life permanently, you best believe you're wrong. I will literally pull the skin from your skull before I let you do that. I'm sitting there, eating my lunch, eyes wide, like, ugh.
Yeah, we're really starting to peel back the layers here, really seeing what these characters'
like
true
peeling the
colors are.
skin off the skull.
Exactly. Really seeing the skeletons inside.
Well, that's horrific.
Yeah, and I mean, they even mention it, right? I don't know if it's now or I can't remember. It's probably later in the episode where Gwen goes, you know, it's been all this time and I finally feel like I know you, Jack. And there has been that underlying, almost Chris Boucher-esque thing of like, these characters aren't really, you know, buddies. They're not really good friends. Maybe Tosh was trying to be a little bit. Maybe Ianto as well, but really they're not.
Yeah, they're work colleagues at best.
Mm-hmm. Whose lives are so empty that maybe they kind of see each other as... Or whose lives they can't really, like... You know, we talked about this at the beginning of the season. Like, Gwen was really the only one who had even a small support network or whatever outside of Torchwood. The rest of them pretty much didn't.
Right. And, I mean, Jack talked about this. You know, I think he tells her to hold on to that. It was the beginning, end of Children of Earth, actually.
Right. But then meanwhile, in 1927, Jack and Angelo decide to go to a random wedding. Or so it seems. It was kind of fun. I mean, you see what this scene is like in a minute, or you see what like is really going on here in a minute, but it was kind of funny in the moment of like, oh, so they just decided to drop in on this wedding?
They just wanted to give the happy couple their regards.
Wedding crashers.
Wedding Crashers.
That's a movie, right?
Yeah. Well, I think
so too, which is why I said
Guess I could be wrong.
I'm looking it up now. Yes, it is.
Please hold.
Oh my god, it's a 2005 American romantic comedy starring Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn and Christopher Walken.
Jeez.
Wow. Dang, it was a massive success. Made $288.5 million on a $40 million budget. I guess it's not a massive success, but it's a big one, I guess.
It's a success.
Yeah. Surprised there's apparently it helped revive the popularity of adult-oriented R-rated comedies. Huh. Well, okay then. The more you know, I guess.
The more you know about obscure Vince Vaughn movies. Not even obscure, I guess, as you evidently just proved.
Well, Jack decides to go to confession. First, they have this little discussion. Angelo, is a Catholic, and he reveals, he doesn't explicitly state it yet, but he kind of indicates that he feels extreme guilt over what he's doing with Jack and his relationship with Jack.
Yeah, he's a pretty religious guy, and his faith becomes kind of a bigger player later in the episode. But for the moment, we find out that Jack is only here at this church because he wants to start smuggling wine.
Right, so there's a speakeasy, the church is also operating as a speakeasy. Jack is in on it, or he wants to get in on it, rather.
Mm-hmm.
But then he and Angelo are taken away. There's a mobster out to get them because they were about to undercut him.
Right. It turns out, as we find out a little bit later, that Jack actually wanted this to happen, that he orchestrated this because he wanted to be caught by these mobsters.
Right. They get taken to an alley and they're about to be killed, but Jack makes the mobster guy, whose name I can't really remember, but he's not that important. He makes him an offer he can't refuse, which is that he and Angelo will literally just do anything for him.
Yeah, so this mobster is played by Chris D'Annunzio. Amazon X-Ray fun fact of the week is that he had a small stint in the NFL playing for the Buffalo Bills.
Hey, cool. I didn't even know that was a team. But
neither did I.
More you know, I guess.
I don't follow the NFL at all, so...
No, but I thought... I don't either. I thought I knew the teams, or at least, the big ones, right? Like the New England Patriots and...
yeah, the Patriots and the Ducks.
Wait, the Ducks are hockey. Yeah.
Shoot.
The LA... It's the LA Rams, I think, is the one in LA.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Chicago Bulls, or maybe it's the Chicago Bears.
Didn't the Raiders move to LA too? Why are we on this tangent? Screw this tangent. So Jack and Angelo get given this job to deliver this box from point A to point B. Point A and point B don't matter. Just the job is to take the box, and they shouldn't open the box.
Yeah, no matter he gives them the explicit order. No matter what you do, don't open the box. And as soon as they get there, Angelo's like, he sees Jack opening the box, and he's like, whoa, like he said not to open the box, and Jack just goes like, yeah, right.
Yeah, so before they get there, they have this talk where Jack is packing Angelo's bag, and he's like, you have to go away now. And Angelo's like, no, I'm not leaving you. And Jack's like, well, I guess the doctor travels with a companion. I guess I can too.
Yeah, in this scene, there is sort of this line of logic that they follow, these sort of mental, hoops that they jump through to arrive at this conclusion. I don't know if that's how you interpreted it, but I was just like, all right. I mean, I didn't have any, big thoughts about that or anything. It was just something that the scene kind of had in it that I thought, maybe overcomplicated it, but not even that. It was just something I noticed.
No, I agree. They made a lot of logical leaps to justify this, but I get it. Like they're in love. Sure, you do anything for love. I understand.
Yeah, which is why like I thought it could have been boiled down to something as simple as what you just said. But maybe that's the thing is like they maybe since Angelo I guess doesn't feel comfortable with their relationship, he's trying to look at it through this lens where he needs to have everything make sense, even though he's just in love with Jack and yeah, that's it. So maybe there's a bit of that going on. Anyway, they get to the box, and we talked about Leech Punk last week.
I can't believe this joke that you and I started like before we even started the podcast made its way into the podcast 7.5 years later, and now is like we're gonna unironically reference it on the show.
Yeah, I mean, Leech Punk dates back to when we were in high school, just shooting the shit at lunch. And we're like, Leech Punk, we came up with this entire genre powered by leeches. This entire, I don't remember how deep we went into it, but, or into the lore and the story, but yeah. And that was almost 10 years ago, and lo and behold, what do they find when they open the box?
Here we are. A parasite, a leech, basically.
Feeds off of people's brains. I don't think it's the same one that infected Owen's long-lost lover. And by long-lost, I mean, like, lost to the world, dead.
Oh, not Olivia. Was it Olivia? Or something with her... The one who got lost to time.
Yeah, the one who died...
Diana.
No. The other one who had that parasite.
Yeah, I'm saying not Diana.
Yes, not Diana. Or Diane. Yeah.
Whatever. I just made the same mistake calling it Olivia that I did 2 seasons ago.
8 months ago. Or whatever. That was one, actually. Damn. I forgot about that.
That was season 1 because we were like, let her go. Let her go, Owen. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think this is the same parasite as that one. That's all I wanted to say.
No, it's a different one, and Jack explains that the reason why it's here is because they were going to use it to infect FDR, and the gestation period of the parasite in the brain is long enough that history would remain roughly the same, FDR would get elected president, and that's when it would really start to take hold. He'd make some weird decisions, they would pull out of World War II, and Germany would win. Very Amerocentric view of, like requiring America to end World War II, but...
Yeah, maybe this is the same, like, guy who tried to mess with history and make the future, like, more racist in Rosa, Like, you never know.
Well, so Jack says that the Tricksters Brigade are the people who brought it there. Apparently the Trickster is a recurring villain on the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Based on, there's a comment on the Wikipedia page about it. And also, the Tricksters Brigade are apparently the people responsible for, I guess there's a line of dialogue indicating this, for Turn Left. They were the ones who attempted to use Donna Noble to change history there. Yeah,
we're still in that era. Like, this episode of Torchwood is still situated in that era where there was this big Doctor Who expanded universe. And obviously there is now, but there were these multiple different concurrent shows running, and they kind of had those connections between them, whereas now we don't have that as much. It's more just, the core show, because that's all there is. Obviously, There's still the books being published and stuff, but you don't really see the core TV series really drawing from those. As it shouldn't. I mean, I don't think it should, personally. Because, I guess the audience for all the expanded universe stuff is far smaller than for the main show.
Yeah, I mean, when you include references like this in a show with a much smaller viewership like that, you're really only putting them in there for the audience, for the diehard fans who are watching.
Right.
Everything.
Anyway, they kill the parasite. The alarms start blaring, and they start running. And Jack has this comment of like he says like, if we want to travel like this, we're gonna have to do like a lot of running, or I forget exactly what he says, but it's something like that. And I was like, yeah, man, he really is, taking after the Doctor here, running through corridors.
Running through corridors, away from danger, saying something like, the only thing you need to know about me is to run.
Right out of the Doctor's playbook. What isn't right out of the Doctor's playbook is like massively failing and just eating it, just dying.
Yeah, the Doctor never got shot, point blank brain splattered all over the fence. This just traumatizes Angelo. Like, instantly you can see on his face he's like traumatized PTSD for the rest of his life.
He tries to run away, but he's captured. You think the way it makes it out is like you think Jack is gonna like come back and save him, but he doesn't. He actually goes to prison for a year.
And then we cut back to the car, where Jack says he wants to talk to the people on the other side of the lenses. And he does. He says a few things about how he'll come willingly if they just let Gwen's family go and just don't harm them, and they get no response. But then Jack basically offers us another solution to Gwen, which is to recode his vortex manipulator to her DNA and then use it to track her daughter.
Right, which she almost buys into this. She almost believes it, but then she realizes that he's lying, and the people on the other side of the lenses comment on this too. They're like, he always lies.
Jack is doing a lot of deduction here, trying to figure out who these people are. He's basically asking Gwen all these questions about did they say specifically like the motorway or the speedway or the highway? Did they spell something in a regional dialect? Did they do this? And basically, he has a funny joke where Gwen's like, "How am I supposed to know like what the right dialect is or whatever? Like nothing seemed off to me." And then he says something like, "You're Welsh, like you wouldn't even recognize if all the vowels were gone."
Yeah.
Because in Welsh, there are like words that are just really long with like no vowels or just 10 vowels in a row. You never notice if one's missing.
The polar opposite of like any language that uses Arabic script, which has no vowels or very few vowels in writing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, again, their true colors are shining through. The layers are finally being peeled back, and Jack is, he's lying blatantly to Gwen's face, not literally because she has her back turned to him because she's driving, but they're just straight up lying to each other, backstabbing each other, or at least trying to. But that's not the only stabbing that goes on here. We get some front, perhaps even arguably side stabbing in just a minute.
Awesome. Thank
1928.
you. 1928. Awesome.
Great year. Great year. Angelo's finally free. And who should he meet as soon as he steps out of those prison gates but Jack, haunting him like a ghost?
Yep. And he just is like, whoa, what?
Yeah, that's a perfect description for what he does here. Jack says something cryptic about why he's still alive, and Angelo's just like, okay, yeah, all right. Jack even got them the same apartment. Just goes to show you how sentimental he is. That should be a sin. Sentiment.
I mean, no, it doesn't fit any of the current sins. Sorry, I thought about it.
Exactly. It should be a new sin. The hidden eighth sin, sentiment.
Great. Which of the hidden eighth sins are we mentioning this week? Necromancy, love.
Yeah. Well, we're about to get some love that is expressed, in close proximity to what you might consider to be, something close to necromancy. A lot of adjacency going on here, but the line, ultimately leads to what happens in the episode, I think. which is that they go back to the apartment. They're making out and stuff, and like all of a sudden, Angelo stabs Jack repeatedly with one of those fake knives that just bends when he... No, I'm kidding. He actually stabs him.
We all wish.
Yeah, because this is really the event that kicks everything off. I mean, I guess Angelo stealing Jack's documents is really, where it all leads back to, but if it wasn't for this, as the episode frames later on, Miracle Day probably would have never happened.
Yeah, that seems to be the indication that if Jack had never gone back to see Angelo again, that this would never have happened. If Angelo had just assumed Jack was dead, then he wouldn't have, I don't know, exposed the miracle / the devil that is Jack to like his entire Italian-American community and then sold him to the mafia.
Right, and it's actually a better way to put it, because I was thinking like, yeah, this would have never happened if Angelo didn't like stab Jack and stuff, but part of this is on Jack for going back.
Yeah, and I mean, I get he went back because, he loved him, etc., etc. He wanted to have a life with him. He felt bad about ditching him. Fair, understood. But, should have probably considered the, probably major trauma this is going to induce.
Right. And, I mean, it makes sense on some level, though, because as the earlier parts of the episode showed, everything he told Angelo, everything he revealed, all the technology, all the future information, like Angelo was just cool with it. And he seemed like a very forward-thinking guy for the 1920s, I guess. And maybe Jack thought he could handle it if he ever discovered it, or maybe he wasn't planning on ever letting him discover it, although he made snide references to it, I believe.
Yeah, he was probably planning on just leaving, just ditching, going out for a pack of smokes and never coming back.
Well, I think maybe he thought Angelo might accept like his immortality if he was never exposed to the healing aspect of it or whatever, which he didn't know Angelo was going to stab him or something. So, or something. That's exactly what he does. Just stabs him repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, you fell in love with a man who is deeply committed to his faith and who asks God for forgiveness every time you have sex. How do you think a man like that is going to react to seeing someone coming back to life in front of his eyes?
Yeah, because that's the part we forgot to mention is the reason he's stabbing Jack is because he thinks he's the devil.
Which, maybe not that far off.
Yeah, I mean, Jack has committed his fair share of sins. Maybe.
We have seen the actual devil in the Doctor Who universe, though, so... Guess he's not the devil. Damn.
He does turn into the face of Bo, though, so maybe the monster from the Satan pit was actually Jack. Who knows?
That would be weird. That would be weird.
Doesn't really fit. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't line up with literally anything. But, this is Doctor Who. Anything goes almost. Anyway, like you said, he reveals this to basically all the people that he knows. And they they chain him up in the part of the butcher shop where they have the meat hung up. And basically torture him.
Yeah, they kill him many times over in many different ways.
And they sell him for $10,000 to a shadowy organization.
Not to worry, Angelo has grown a conscience.
Yeah, just in the nick of time.
Whew. Really thought Jack had it, I thought Jack was done for a second there.
He frees Jack, and Jack has finally come to his senses, and he's like, look, all of this has happened because of what I tried to do and the fact that we were trying to, stay together and be together, and that just can't happen. And Angelo's like, nah, man, it can.
Jack's like, yeah, no, sorry, people like you always kill people like me. He leaps off the building.
Yeah, taking his roof his affinity for roofs to the logical conclusion and jumping off of one.
Right. Yeah, right. That's
That's what he was doing here. It had nothing to do with Angelo. It had nothing to do with him being tortured and killed repeatedly. All of that was just, adjacent to this.
great. Thank you, Jack, for bringing this back to us.
Angelo peers over the edge of the roof and sees Jack's body on the ground.
Thank you. Yeah, so he runs down the stairs, and then Jack is gone by the time he gets there. I'm like, damn, actually, that was, pretty smart way for Jack to get to the bottom floor quicker than Angelo, just making genius use of his immortality.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think at this point in the episode, Jack and Gwen have made it to the location, which is Mesa, California.
Right. Yep.
They're out in a field.
Which is literally just a field in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so they get out of the car, and whoever they're waiting for isn't there yet. So they're just like, well, I guess we'll just wait.
And Gwen starts asking the hard questions, starts asking the difficult questions, really putting it to Jack. So she basically asks, like, if a train leaves a station traveling at 30 miles an hour at 2 p.m. No. Imagine if she just dropped, like, some random math problem. She's like, Jack, we really need to get to the heart of this. Or, like, if a tree falls in a forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? Or just, like, I don't know, what's your favorite color or something? No, she asks him, like, to describe some of the greatest things he's seen in his long life.
Yeah, and he gives some he gives some stories, and then she asks how many kids he's had, and he's like, can't give you all the answers, Gwen.
But then an SUV pulls up, a couple people come out, and these are obviously the people who were directing them there. So they go to make the trade, and all of a sudden they see a sniper, I don't know what you would call it, like the dot sight thing on the one lady.
Probably just that.
Yeah.
The dot sight.
And they're like, what's going on? What? And then, Gwen and Jack realize, like, hey, they're not aiming for us, and it's Rex and Esther, who followed them all the way there.
Then we get another flashback, but not this time to Jack and Angelo. We get a flashback to Esther and Rex at the beginning of the episode, where they immediately after Gwen and Jack leave, Esther's like, I'm gonna go check, like, the computer, and, like, it pops up that they've lost contact with the contact lenses, so she reads the previous history, the stored cached history, and it brings up, like, all the messages that are like, we have your wife and kids. Your husband and kids. God, what am I saying? And she then, the absolute legend, I love Esther, she calls in our favorite PC, now Detective Sergeant, Andy, to go and save Gwen's family.
Heck yeah.
We're so pleased to see Andy getting a prominent role in this episode. Saving the day. He is saving the day. He shoots a man for the first time in his life to save Gwen's family, and that's how you know he's a good man.
Yeah, just, committing some murder here.
No, because they're immortal. He just made them Category 1.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, Esther really did save the day here, Just clapping and pumping my fist at the same time to her. So Torchwood takes charge of the situation, but the people on the other side of the fence here, the people they're up against who, we don't even know who these people are like, I don't see how anything's changed, just being all high and mighty about it. And they're like, yeah, well, why is that? And she reveals that it's because Angelo wants to see Jack. and he's the only one alive who knows what the miracle really is, or something.
I'm like, damn, Angelo's still alive? Dog, it's been like 90 years since...
I thought that entire flashback just had nothing to do with the rest of the episode. I thought it was just there. No.
Really?
No.
I was going to say, hang on, hold up. No way.
I didn't think that was coming back whatsoever. No, it's...
Jeez. For some reason, I don't believe that.
No, I'm kidding, yeah. I wonder how this would have played out if, like, the Jack and Angelo stuff was in, like, episode 1 of Miracle Day, not of the entire show. Or actually, yeah, let's take this to its own logical conclusion. Not really, but, like, what if Jack and Angelo and their flashback was in episode 1 of Torchwood? Everything changes.
Well, that would have just changed the entire show, wouldn't it have?
And it just all paid off here. You know, by the time you forgot about it, years later. That actually would have been like something Doctor Who did, like when it was actually Missy who called Clara that one time or whatever, and that was like a years-long thing. If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, that revelation that Missy was the one who put Clara with the Doctor 2 seasons ago, before Missy was even a character on the show.
God.
Honestly, that's still the weirdest revelation that like Moffat ever tried to make work, and that was really the one revelation that Moffat did, besides the TARDIS breaks thing that like didn't really land. Also, Moffat just hit and running himself, which is hilarious. I like how we've coined this term hit and running and like, nobody else uses.
We haven't tried to spread it. I'm sure if we did, we'd fail miserably, but we haven't tried, so it's still you know, the Schrodinger's turn of phrase or something.
Schrodinger's turn of phrase, great.
Who coined the phrase coining a phrase?
Oh my god. The origin of the phrase coin a phrase from todayifoundout.com. This seems like a legit website.
This doesn't seem made up and embellished.
We have no idea who first coined the phrase to coin a phrase. Wow, thank you very much.
Thanks for making an entire web page about it then. I guess that is useful information of like, you know, people who look it up and they're just like, well, we don't know, so we need to get that information out there. Better than making up their own story, I guess. Unless they are making up the idea that we don't know, and we actually do.
Phrases.org.uk has a much longer article on the phrase to coin a phrase and the history of the phrase, so I'll link that one in the show notes and people can make their own choices.
Well, that's where the episode ends. We get a preview that seemed longer than usual. It was about a minute. I don't know if that's how long they all are, but this one seemed a lot longer to me. And yeah, things just get really dark.
I mean, they've been dark for weeks now. We also neglected to mention that I guess they really did like just upload that video of Vera burning alive to Live Leak, because we see Esther checking the view count on it at the beginning of the episode, which, yikes.
One thing we kind of...
Apparently they're up to 5 million.
Yeah. And one thing we kind of skipped is that while Jack and Gwen were in the car, Gwen reveals why she both loves and loathes Torchwood, which is that she enjoyed all of the, you know, the violence and all of the things that she's been through. And she even says that she enjoyed the deaths of Ianto, Owen, and Tosh because every time they died, it made her feel like she was a part of something big and that she was a survivor who was better than all of them.
Yeah, that statement to me was like, what?
That is like, I can somewhat understand the people are dying and like this is a big deal and you feel like you're part of something, big that most people will go through life like not having been a part of. Like, yeah, it's not the best, sentiment in the world, but like on some level you can understand it. But like the other one is kind of, it's more foreign to me that like, when they die, or maybe not, I don't know.
I mean, I get it. Like, I get her sentiment, which is that the people she knew dying in to use perhaps an ill word for the situation, spectacular fashion. I get how that can make her feel important. If you have a friend who dies from cancer, cancer is such a widespread thing that's not going to make you feel important. But if, like, your friend Owen, who you had an affair with, lest we forget that, dies by being killed and then brought back to life by the gauntlet of life and then being unable to die and then like being destroyed in a nuclear explosion or a nuclear venting accident. I get how that can make you feel important by proxy because you're so close to this event, these effects on the world,
Yeah, and she couches it as like, they died and I didn't, so I was better than them, or something like that.
Yeah, see, that was where she lost me. I was like, what?
Yeah, and I mean, okay, we don't have to get into it. I was going to go into a whole thing of like, was she really a bigger hero than Tosh ever was? Bleeding out, saving the world while literally bleeding out on the floor and not even raising so much as a complaint. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Is she a bigger hero? Is she not? This discussion she has is also interesting because it relates to something we were talking about on the podcast recently, which is like she knew from the first episode, she knew from when she joined that Torchwood was like toxic and that it was going to change her. And that it did, and that she recognized that, but she loved it. Something we were talking about, that how Torchwood changed us too.
Yeah, it made our jokes a lot darker and more cynical. I think. We had some pretty dark ones in the past, though, let's be honest.
We did. We've had, yeah, and a lot of them got cut. The worst offenders got cut. But also, like, the show was just giving us the material, so in a way...
Right.
The show was giving us the material.
It's also a case of perfect timing of like, yeah, the last year or so, this is being recorded in mid-March of 2021. The last year or so has like really sucked. So I think that's kind of seeped into our commentary as well.
Right. And, maybe it will continue that way until at least this quarantine ends. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this does get pretty dark. This is more of a thematic darkness than a visual kind of like the burning them alive on screen.
Yeah, it doesn't
darkness.
Feel as edgy and over the top as what the rest of Miracle Day is thrown at us. Probably because it's been, it was put on the boil a little. It was put on the boil early. We picked up on it. We've been mentioning it for almost a year now, and then this is, it's finally boiled over, I guess. To where Gwen is just straight up like, yeah, Torchwood made me a worse person. I knew it was bad news from the start, and I fell into that, without a hitch. And frankly, I didn't think the show would ever come out and say that. I thought it was just something you might pick up on, and it would kind of just leave you on, like, it would just leave you to make up your own mind. Like, did Gwen become a worse person or not? And the answer is almost indisputable yes. But I didn't think they'd ever come out and just be like, yeah, it did.
I'm kind of glad they did, though. I'm kind of glad they acknowledged that this did have an effect on Gwen, on Jack, on everybody who was involved, and did make them worse people. I'm glad that they had Gwen. They gave Gwen the foresight or the knowledge to admit that, and I appreciate that. Also, Gwen blames herself for this entire situation. I have a note here that's like, I know we give you, like, gruff Gwen, but somehow I don't think you're actually to blame for this one. Like, I don't think you're to blame for your family getting kidnapped.
No, I guess not, yeah. Damn, no, I'm just kidding.
Curses.
I do think this scene has made me really appreciate Miracle Day as the final season of Torchwood, you know, over Children of Earth, because some people, you know, as far as I know, say, like, yeah, it could have just ended there. And I agree it could have, but, like, these more character-driven moments and this looking back and, you know, realizing what the past 3 seasons were and what they've done to the characters and to Gwen and, you know, and Jack, as if they're not characters, right? But, like, but just having these more character-driven moments really lends, like, a sense of finality and just kind of puts a cap on it all versus Children of Earth, which didn't really have the time to dive into that too much.
Right. Children of Earth, yeah. I mean, along those lines, I have come to, I think, appreciate the 10 versus 5 episodes of the 2 seasons. Yeah, you can drag when you have 10 episodes, but it gives us the opportunity for these character development moments. It gives us the opportunity to have Gwen and Jack look back on the past 4 seasons of events and just how, like, their entire world has changed and recognize that it's changed. And we wouldn't be able to have that if this was only 5 episodes long. So,
well, that's all I had to say on the episode, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much the same for me too. I don't have anything else to talk about. So, segments time.
Well, there weren't really too many new characters that this episode introduced, but, you know, the big one I think was obviously Angelo, who seems like he's going to be a pretty major factor coming up. He was played by Daniele Favilli, who has a pretty extensive career. He's been in a lot of Italian things because he's Italian. So I'm not even going to try to pronounce most of these things that he's been in. He was in A Hero in Rome, Electrico 3. I don't know what that is. I don't know what any of these are, actually, because they're all Italian. It's Always Smoggy in LA.
Great.
Orgy of the Damned. He played Russell in Orgy of the Damned. Awesome. Blood for the Gods.
Interesting.
That's another out there title. Puncture Wounds. Swelter. Sacrifice. I don't know what any of these are. And yeah, I mean, he's still acting, obviously. Well, maybe he's biased, but he is. So, there you go.
Well, I looked up Nana Visitor. I think it's pronounced Visitor. Might be Visitor, but I'm going to say Visitor. Who is credited as playing Olivia Colasanto. I guess implying some relation to Angelo that we have not seen on screen yet. I looked her up because I recognized her from her most famous role, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, in which she played a recurring role on all 7 seasons of the show. She was one of the series regulars. So making the jump from Star Trek to Doctor Who. She was also in the recent Friday the 13th movie. She's had a lot of voice roles on Family Guy. She was in CSI, Murder, She Wrote, the original MacGyver back in the day. Those are kind of her biggest roles. She's got movies in production now, so she's still acting. So
yeah. We usually do this last, so I don't know like what a good segue to our other more dumb segments would be, you know? Like, yeah.
Well, that's the perfect segue for this show that's run by amateur clowns. We didn't even mention, we seem to do this. We pick an intro, we never mention where we got the intro from in the entire episode. But at the end when Rex and Esther show up, Rex just turns to Gwen and goes, you could have just asked for help and we would have helped you. I'm tired of Torchwood, acting like amateur clowns.
Yeah, that was a good line.
He's also not even wrong. In fact, he's completely right.
But remember, he is now fully a member of Torchwood, because there was that scene in a couple episodes ago where he goes, "I'm Rex from the CIA. Scratch that, Rex Matheson from Torchwood."
Also, yeah, great.
It's true. He's really lowering the amateur clown level. He and Esther, actually, well, maybe Esther is sort of a net, zero or something, because she did kind of ruin the operation when they were infiltrating. What's their name? But now she saves the day here, redeeming herself.
Ficor?
Yes, Ficor.
Oh, there's a subtle mention of Oswald Danes in this episode too. Actually, on the radio, they say something about Oswald being the most popular man in the world right now, or something like that. It's just a throwaway line on the radio.
Yeah, because this is the second week in a row that he hasn't been in the episode. But he's coming back next week, I think.
Does look like next week he's gonna do some real sketchy things.
Yeah.
So the 7 deadly sins of Gwen really only had her committing wrath and a little bit of pride this week. Wrath against Jack, pride in her... I don't know. Pride was her justification for committing wrath against Jack.
Yeah, true enough. I think that's it, mainly.
I mean, that's all I had, so I don't know if you had.
Yeah, no. No, others. I tend to just think of them on the fly now, so I didn't really have any others.
How much is this going to affect old Jackie boy?
Probably a lot. Like, probably the highest amount that it ever has in all of the segments we've done for this.
Considering it was just revealed his ex-lover from 80 years ago is still alive.
It's been 84 years.
Possibly still alive. And is maybe responsible for Miracle Day.
Wait,
the miracle.
Oh my god, it has been 84 years. 1927 to 2011. Oh my god. It's that Titanic meme.
God. Shoot. Oh jeez.
If you don't know, there's this meme. I don't know how big of a meme it is anymore, but it's the woman from Titanic crying and breaking down and talking about how it's been 84 years, which I guess makes her over 100. I never watched the full movie, so I didn't really see it in context. But yeah, I guess she's over 100. But anyway, she's crying and breaking down, and she's it's been 84 years. And lo and behold,
here we are. Great.
Wow. What if this entire season was constructed based around that meme? What if that... Actually, I'll just reveal this. I participated in National Novel Writing Month last November, and
all right,
I created the entire story of and I succeeded. I crossed the 50,000 words that you need to succeed in the challenge or whatever, and finished the novel. And the entire basis for it was based around that joke and someone going, "It's been 84 years."
Wow, I didn't even know that.
I didn't show you my novel though, so that's to be expected. Probably because it's garbage. Not probably, that is why I haven't shown it to you or anyone, but hey.
It's okay, I sent you all my garbage novels. Well, anyway, that's all the segments out of the way for me. Well, besides the British part of America, for which I had nothing, except Jack's dialect quiz thing, which reminded me of an interesting... There's a quiz online. It's mainly really for people who grew up in the U.S., and it asks you what you call certain things, certain objects, and certain events, and then basically tries to guess where you're from in the U.S. based on your dialect and your lingo, which it's pretty cool. I'll link it in the show notes.
That seems pretty easy to do. They're very... I don't know how much people outside the U.S., know this or realize this, but there are a lot of different dialects and regional variants of just terminology that people use here. There are in the UK too, which I'm always surprised about, over the entire UK, there's so many different, dialects and just words that people use to refer to different things. Which is crazy considering it's like a pretty small country, at least compared to the States.
Yeah. So we do have an email this week, though, from Eleanor, who's reaching out again. She's emailed us in the past. Hey guys, short message from me this week. I'd like to put the question out there of how do we know that Jack is no longer immortal? For all we know, he simply has the same kind of immortality that the rest of the world has. Although he is convinced that he actually can die, we know from Doctor Who that he didn't even know that he was immortal until he died a few times. So we know that he cannot physically feel the difference, except that injuries heal faster, but that is covered by the, quote, miracle immortality, close quote. Short of actually killing him, the team has no way of proving or disproving this theory. Love to hear your thoughts on this because this is one of the many plot holes in Season 4 that has bothered me ever since I watched it. Thanks, Eleanor.
Yeah.
And, that is a good point, I think, actually. We don't know that he doesn't have... We don't know that he is actually mortal, really. We only have his word to go off of. And the fact that he didn't heal his cut. But the people... It is a good point that the people on Earth who have immortality now, who have the Owen immortality, their cuts don't heal either. Right. At least not at an accelerated rate. They heal at the same rate as regular people.
Maybe we'll find out in the 3 episodes to come, or maybe it's just one of those things that the show just kind of asks you to accept. Probably the latter.
Probably the latter. But it's an interesting thought, and I'm going to assume we never get an answer to it since you said it's one of the plot holes that bothers you, which would indicate that we don't get an answer. So,
right. But yeah, thanks for the email there, Eleanor. Thanks for
reaching out again, Eleanor. Sorry, always good to hear from our fans. Do we have any comments this week?
No, we don't.
No, okay. All right, well then, if you'd like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decoratevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on, as we come to the end of the season, Torchwood Miracle Day. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable, and find us anywhere you find a podcast at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TUID Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching End of the Road. But until then, the end.